There you go. See, it works. Guys, today is the day. We are starting the final leg of the series. I cannot wait. Though out of all the topics, this is probably the hardest, and I guess the final one will be hard too. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my childhood. Not too much, man. Honestly, I've been kind of sitting around, like mapping out what I want to say, and I don't know, man. It's kind of harder than I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to kind of keep it kind of simple. I thought I would open some Chrome while I do this. So I found 4 Chrome boxes yesterday at Walmart. So I'll open some Chrome. I'm not opening all these boxes. I need to kind of space it out a little bit. Plus, when I'm trying to, drum up old fucking memories, it might be hard to focus on Chrome. But that's what I'll be showing you today. But yeah, hope everyone's doing well. If you don't have one of my latest customs, this is what it looks like. It's about the size of a trading card. It's the length of a trading card. It's just, it's not as wide. And it's also made out of plastic because it's meant to, chop up, pills and stuff. It's a chop card is what I always called them. I'd always keep a credit card in my wallet that I didn't use, like maybe an expired credit card that I would pull out when I was in, high school to, chop up shit. So that's kind of the influence behind this. Yeah, so anyway, today is about childhood. It's kind of a tough thing, ain't it? I want you to reflect on your childhood. Listen, reflect on your childhood. What led to you being such an obsessive Garbage Pail Kid fan? Okay, so that's what I'm answering today. I'm not going to sit here for hours and go over my childhood. In fact, I'll show you my notes. I'm not going through all this. But about 2 weeks ago, I did start making notes on this topic. And then last night I took a new sheet of paper and made notes. And the good news, my notes are like perfectly matched up. Like I know what I need to say. So I think I can make this pretty short, like, under 30 minutes. That's short for me. And like I said, I'll open the Chrome while I do this. Okay, let's get going. I was going to try to set you up on something. Let's see. Yeah, man. So, I know a lot of us are about the same age. I was born in 1975. That makes me, 47? Yeah, so my childhood took place in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm from Atlanta. In fact, I've never left Georgia. I never want to leave Georgia. I'm definitely a Southern guy. You might can tell with my voice. I'm just kind of a Southerner. But my home is Atlanta, and I lived in Atlanta until I was 17. I got kicked out of high school. I got expelled from Gwinnett County Schools for drug use and skipping class. It was a lot of things. And I had to move away. But I spent most of my childhood, obviously I was 17 when I left. Damn, what's wrong with these packs? Why are they so like, what the fuck? They're not even like vacuum sealed. Look at that. You guys seeing that shit? They're like puffy. Anyway, so my point is I'm just, I'm from Atlanta, which is a city, and that was one thing I always kind of struggled with my whole life is, am I a city guy or am I a country guy? And it's almost like I was a little schizophrenic because I think I'll get to this story today. I had 2 homes. I had a home in Atlanta with my mom. And then after they divorced, I had a second home that was way in the fucking country. There was cows. We had a farm, all this shit. So I've always kind of felt kind of like almost like 2 people in that respect. Let's get started here. Yeah, these packs are weird, man. They're like, looks like they've been injected with air. So got a little piece of a tape roll I'm trying to prop you with. Okay. Yeah, so my mom was 18 when she met my dad. My dad was 37 years old. So, and they got married, and this was a debate for a long time. Was my mom pregnant before she got married? No, she actually wasn't pregnant, but she did get pregnant 2 months after. But anyway, yes, but my dad was so much older than my mom. All right, let's take a look here. Amazing Grace. But he was so much older, and he had a business. But my grandparents definitely were not happy when their daughter, who was fresh out of high school, went to go be with this older guy. He's in almost in his 40s. My dad, I'm talking about. Now my dad had a shop in Atlanta. He was actually like a barber, a hair, he cut hair. That's something he did in the Navy. That was one of the things, was his job in the Navy. Navy was to cut hair, and he would buzz, people's heads and shit. So he opened basically a barber shop, and this would have been in the 60s, 70s in Atlanta. All right, here's Spiky Mikey. Now, my mom did nothing. I mean, she was fresh out of high school. She did attempt to go to college, but she couldn't focus on it and all this. And then, like I said, she got pregnant with me. And my mom was 19 when she had me. So I had a very young mother. So what ended up happening is my parents got a divorce the year after that. So when I was 1, they got a divorce. And my family doesn't talk now. My mom and dad does not talk about it at all. They will avoid it. But even my extended family avoids it too. But what I've picked out over the years is it was a big custody battle. And of course I was 1, I didn't know anything about it. But they had a very intense, very ugly custody battle. And what ended up happening is my dad got split custody. And I would see my dad every weekend, not every other weekend, every weekend. And so that's how my childhood started off. Now, another thing I had to figure out is why they got a divorce. And it was because of me, okay? Oh, what is that? Yellow? Is that special? No. Okay. Cool, I never pulled one of those. Okay. Yeah, so this is another story. I knew something had happened to me, but I didn't know what and who caused it. So when I was a baby, kind of like a toddler, I was crawling around the hair shop they had in Atlanta, and they weren't watching me, and I actually bit down on an extension cord, and I got electrocuted. My mom heard a voice in her head that she believes was from God that told her to rip the cord out of my mouth. And it was later confirmed by the doctors. Had my mom unplugged the cord from the wall, I would have died. The only way to save me in that second was to rip the cord out of my mouth. The problem was the cord, I was being electrocuted by the extension cord. The problem is the cord was melting around my lips. It was burning my lips, and they were melting around the cord. So when she yanked the cord out, it ripped my mouth apart. And so I spent months in the hospital getting plastic surgery done to my mouth. What is this? Dry guy. I guess. I thought it was special for some reason. Rose gold or something. Yeah, so anyway, I spent a lot of my early years going back and forth to, I think it was Emory, getting plastic surgery done to my mouth and like lower part of my face. And no one can see the scars, but I can feel it inside my mouth. I have like extra skin where they had to like add skin to my mouth, but it's on the inside of my mouth. So anyway, that's why my parents got a divorce. Now, defects was called in for neglect, and my grandparents have talked about over the years, like there was like issues of neglect going on, especially on my mom's end. So, all right, here's another pack of Chrome 4 here, stuff Steven. Some of these look a little, I don't know, maybe it's just a light. I thought it was like a refractor, whatever they're called. Cool. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of how that started, my life at least. And, but, you know, my dad, he said, before I was born, he had a dream. He had a dream about me, and the dream was that he saw a vision of what I was to become. And the vision he had in his dream was that I'm Zan. And the reason I'm named that is because of my dad's dream that I'm going to grow up to be a visual artist. And what's cool is if you're patient enough and you listen to my story, his dream came true. And it's not his dream; it's actually my dream. Had really nothing to do with him, but he just had the vision, right? All right, guys, I'm not seeing much in this chrome box. I got a yellow here. I'm a little disturbed about the value of some of these cards. Like, I know the value, as I just dinged the corner, I know the value of, like, the older chrome stuff. Like, we all know what, you know, certain ones are worth. But it seems like the value of these new ones just aren't there. And even, like, the sapphire, too. What's going on with the prices of them? They're so cheap. Okay, here's another pack here. God, I loved this card as a kid, man. I just fucking loved Igloo, man. All right, so that's kind of how my life started. My dad also named his hair shop after me. It was called Operation RZ's. And he named his whole business after me. I was his only child, or whatever. So that was nice. But after my parents split, that's when you know, I think with a lot of divorced kids, it just brings chaos, man. So I don't know if you can relate to this. I know a lot of my hobby friends come from divorce. Like, when they talk about their childhood, it's always like some broken home. So I don't know if that's a theme with us garbage bucket collectors. Like, so I'm definitely, you know, from a divorced home. But I wouldn't say I had a bad childhood at all. Like, you know, we all had things happen, you know what I'm saying? But, like, no, don't feel like sorry for me at all. But, all right, so here's the next part of this story. So, I'm trying to find my fucking knife here. What the fuck is it? What were the consequences of me being electrocuted? So, it wasn't just the plastic surgery and my mouth being fucked up. When I started talking, I had a severe speech impediment, which is very common for children who's been electrocuted. And this is something I still have to deal with. I have a speech impediment. I spent a lot of my youth going to speech therapy and stuff. And, kids, they would make fun of me. I'm not going to sit here and say I was bullied. I'd kick their ass, But still, I mean, when someone, when a kid would say something stupid, like, you can't help but laugh. So there was always that. But I just learned to not say certain words that would make my speech impediment, come out as much. And you just learn how to adapt. But that was just something I had to work through. And I eventually beat it for the most part. And I also want to tell kind of that story here in a few minutes. Okay, here's another pack of Chrome 4. Melba toast. Did we need Melba toast in this format? No. No, we didn't. No. Cool. Yeah, there's some really great cards in OS4. But, man, Tops, fuck you. You made us buy OS4 again. I mean, really, what a sham. What a fucking sham. All right, so after my parents split, which I don't remember any of it, I do have flashes of being in the hospital. In fact, I remember what my doctor looked like, my plastic surgeon, which is very weird because I was only like a year and a half. So I guess that's my earliest memory. And what's cool is I remember my vision of it is I'm actually on my back, like you would be in a hospital bed. And I'm like looking up at this doctor. But anyway, so yeah, my mom, I lived with my mom during the week and on the weekends with my dad. But it's just my fucking mom, man. Living with a single mother, 1980s, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm in the middle of a city. My mom, she's still very young. She's like 20 years old, 21 by then. And, trying to figure out what she's going to do. She's now divorced. And so most of my elementary school life was every year I moved to a different school. Every year. If you look at my old yearbooks and stuff, they're all from different schools every year. And which also meant different apartments. Like my whole childhood was spent in weird apartments and stuff. I mean, nothing much happened, but it's just constantly having to move. Yeah, I'm not seeing much in this pack here. Sorry, I'm looking at some notes. So when I got to kindergarten age, I don't know if you guys remember being in kindergarten, when you're about 5 years old. The thing is, I was an August birthday, I was born in August, which is when school started. So I actually started school when I was still technically 4 years old. The thing was, I was extremely immature for my age, even though I was just, 4 years old. And plus I had that speech impediment. So I actually got held back in kindergarten. They wouldn't let me advance in kindergarten. And so I went to kindergarten twice. And, the teachers didn't really know what to do with me. One one thing they noticed, and my peers noticed, is I would talk like a robot, like real monotone. And that's something I've had to deal with my whole life, is how to disguise it. This is a refractor. And it wasn't until first grade where I finally got tested and they found the autism. But even back in the 80s, they didn't fully understand autism, not like they do now. But yeah, so because the teachers didn't really understand like why I was behaving or not behaving like they thought I should. So I was very quiet. And it wasn't just because of the speech impediment fear. It's just because I'm just naturally introverted. And just kind of being an artist kid, you know, I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. And from the earliest age, I just remember drawing. That was just my thing. I just drew constantly. I think one thing that I wish people understood more about me as a person is, especially in the hobby at least, is you're underestimating how important art is to me. Art's my whole life, man. I just don't always express that in the hobby because I'm on like other missions and stuff. But yeah, so to understand kind of my deal is, it's all about like me wanting to be a visual artist and just the struggle to get there and some of the decisions I made along the way that I will tell you about, maybe even today, that kind of led to me not quite reaching my dreams, at least when I needed to. Yeah, man, so it was weird, man. Once I got to elementary school, that's where things started to stand out. Because, you know, that's when you notice kids having issues, man. Like, before you get into school, you're just a kid. Like, you're just a kid who plays, you know. But when you get kids in the room with other kids, because, I'm a teacher, man. And you can see some kids just developmentally, they're just not with other kids, man. And so they found that out when I got into school. Russell was not, there was something up with this boy. So, but yeah, after I survived the 2 kindergartens and I finally got into a different school in first grade, because every fucking year I moved to a different school. But anyway, when I got into first grade, I got tested and they detected, the autism or whatever. And, this wasn't something my mom talked about until later when I got older. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I don't think I would have even understood it anyway. Okay, let's see what's in these packs, man. I'm not seeing much at all. I feel like I'm seeing the same cards over and over, man. This pack feels thin as fuck, man. Like there might be 2 cards in it at the most. Yeah, but first grade was very traumatic. So let me tell you about that. Again, I don't want you to feel sorry for me at all. I've had a great life, man. I'm just telling you some things I think contributed to me becoming so obsessed with Garbage Pail Kids, and what's kind of kept me trapped in this cycle of collecting for so long. So in first grade, my mom finally got remarried. So she found a guy. There's actually 4 cards in here. They just felt thin or something. Anyway, she met this guy. He ended up being an Atlanta cop, a police officer for Fulton County, which is the main county. This guy, man, my first stepdad, this fucker was so abusive. Just nasty, man. It was like the second my mom, signed the paper or whatever, when they got married, he just fucking switched, man. Plus, we moved into a new apartment, of course. Every year, it had to be a new apartment. Every year, I had to move to a new fucking school. That's the story of my childhood. I never could feel, like, settled. But this guy, man... All right, let me tell you just the memories I have of this cop. my stepdad. So I don't know if you guys remember first grade. I don't know about you, but in first grade, I was obsessed with Star Wars. I was so obsessed with Star Wars. I'd been obsessed for years with Star Wars, but it was at its peak, man. And what I remember, I would always find myself in the living room in front of the TV. I'd have all my Star Wars figures out, playing like a normal fucking kid. And this guy screaming at my mom. She would run back. She'd always eventually retreat to the bedroom, shut the door, lock the door, and he would bang on it. He would punch holes in the wall. Our apartment had holes in the fucking wall. This guy was insane. And my memory is sitting on the floor of the living room, and I wouldn't be playing with the toys. I would just be doing this. For what seems to be hours, I would just be doing this. I would stop playing with the toys because I didn't know what to do. As a 6-year-old boy, you want to, save your mom. You want to protect her, even though you can't do shit. I was a skinny little white boy, And what can I do against a big cop guy? And just not knowing what to do. Toys took on such a meaning for me. Having such trouble making friends anyway and moving to different schools just made it even tougher. And feeling that people didn't understand what I was talking about or trying to say, and teachers not understanding me, I really took interest in inanimate objects, and I started collecting just anything I could find. But this cop in our life, this fucking stranger, this fucking creep, really changed. It kind of took, almost like my innocence, or just like a piece of my innocence away, Like I couldn't be a kid when he was around. How can you be a kid when some guy's pushing your mom and holding her up off her feet against the wall and cussing at her, words I'd never heard before? And my dad doesn't cuss. You don't know what to do, man, because you're just 6 or whatever. So that is one turning event, I think, in my life, was just that fucker. But she finally got away from him, and my mom and I went into hiding. We actually left in the middle of the night and found a new apartment on the other side of town, which meant new school, new place. God, how many fucking times are we going to see this card? Yeah, so 3rd grade, I spent a lot of 3rd grade in hiding. My mom actually told me to look out for his car. We were trying to hide from this ex-cop that my mom's now separated from. But we'd moved it seemed like so far away, but it really wasn't. Atlanta's not that big. But yeah, just having to get adjusted to a new life, plus just kind of getting older. I was definitely getting into Transformers and stuff. Fucking love Transformers and G.I. Joes. At one point, my uncle moved in with us to kind of watch, to protect us, because it was that volatile. This guy, we were just really afraid that he was going to come, and who knows, man? That's the thing. He was real unpredictable, like a fucking loose cannon, and I didn't know how to express any of it. Now, every time I moved to a different school, it was also a different county in Atlanta, which means I had to go through a different school psychologist. And so I was constantly getting reevaluated because the new county wouldn't know what to do with me. I wasn't a behavior problem per se. It's just like they didn't really know what to do. Yeah, but anyway, that was just kind of like what I had to go through. But I just took so much I just the stuff that I had, the stuff that I owned, I just took so good care of it, and it just meant like a lot to me. I think because I could maybe control it. You know, I had to find something in my life I could control, and so I would just really take to my toys. And, you know, I think as garbage pail kid collectors, I think a lot of us, while we're here, is to, you know, kind of get back in tune with our past selves as children. Things that we used to enjoy, you know, things that made us happy in the past. A lot of it makes you happy now. But what keeps us here? What's keeping us here? What's keeping us here after 5 years? What's still keeping me after 10 years? Why the fuck have I been here 15 years? Almost 20 years. And I think it can be directly tied. And I think if you think of your childhood, you can directly tie it back to some issues that happened when you were young. Probably some fucking issues that were happening when you were originally collecting Garbage Pail Kids even. So let me tell you a little bit about that, and I might kind of wrap it up today. So what was going on in 1985, 1986, 1987? So I would have been like 4th grade, 5th grade, you know. Well, one thing was consistent, and that is nothing was consistent. So I would, you know, be in a new apartment building, new school, which had its perks sometimes, but for the most part, it was kind of rough for someone who didn't socialize very well. In 5th grade, they ended up, in the new school I was at least, what they thought I needed was special education. I actually went into special education for reading comprehension. They figured out that when something was read to me or something I had to read, I was not getting what I was supposed to out of it. And I would get stuff out of it, and I would tell them what I was getting out of it, but it was not what they expected me to get out of it. And bro, that is another thing. That's like the story of my life. I've always had trouble with humor. Like sometimes I don't get other people's humor at all. Like I have to fake laugh. I don't understand what they're saying. And I've noticed like when I make jokes, people don't get it. Like they think I'm being mean or something. I'm actually trying to be just like normal funny. Because I'm not comprehending, or I'm not like, I don't know what's wrong. Because I don't know what's wrong. That's been kind of an issue, is understanding humor and people not getting mine. And it's caused a lot of issues, man. I was also put into emotional behavior disorder classes. That's when a kid is behaving in a way that's directly tied back to some sort of trauma or emotional issue. And yeah, but I feel like over time a lot of that shit worked out. But you know, it's just weird you know, when you put a kid into school, that's when you can kind of gauge where they're at. And so that was just my experience growing up. It was just a lot of like moving around. We just had, I had some other stepfathers, by the way. I ended up having 3 more. And it was just a lot of fucking chaos, bro. And the only thing that was really consistent in my life was toys. As pathetic as that sounds. Candy also played a big role. So let me tell you about that real quick. So I told you in the beginning, like I always felt like I was split between the country and the city. So my other part of the family that I divided time with lived in South Georgia on a big farm. We have a family farm down there. And I would spend every summer with them. So while my mom was off doing God knows what, she would drop me off at the farm, usually around June 1st, and she'd pick me up near the beginning of September every year. In one sense, it was good because I was out of the chaos of moving around and all that drama. But on the other hand, it was almost like nothing to do. So I would spend most of my time drawing, of course. What else am I going to do? This would have been around 1983, 84, 85, 86. And, but one of my only pleasures or stimulations outside of my own like little world is my grandfather would take me to the gas station and let me pick out candy and ice cream. And this became our tradition. And I would always go for the candy that looked like toys. Like something like this. This is from Australia, sent to me by a friend. Goblicker. I would always go for the candy containers that looked like toys. Because that was kind of my comfort zone. I mean, yeah, it's plus it's, fun. You're a kid, but that was like my one outlet when I was a kid, especially in the summers, was just the world of candy. I know my family always asks me why I'm so obsessed with sweets. Well, because you caused it, so. Yeah, so think back to your childhood. What sort of made you the garbage pail kid collector, the obsessive collector? What led to some of that? And I think if I can wrap this up, it's I needed it. Like I needed Alligator, man. I needed him. He brought a smile to my face. He was weird. He got me. He was an escape. When my mom was getting, guys, I'm pretty sure I heard a rape at one point. It's rough, man. Like not knowing what to do. I always needed something to hold that would charm me and get me out of reality. And that's kind of like another story of my life. Is just kind of always clinging to objects that kind of like dazzle me or gets me out of my head or out of my reality. By the way, I found this. I had to go back to Walmart. I went to a different one. Found this bag, girl. Let's get this open too while we're at it. Yeah, this was the video I was dreading. I've got like actual topics, but having to discuss a childhood, dude, it's fucking stressful, bro. But let me tell you something. If you're going to quit Garbage Pail Kids, and you're going to go through a lot of memories. And there's regrets with this shit, bro. I got regrets about collecting this long. I kind of need to talk about that. Oh, wow. She is beautiful. Man, imagine having this back in 1985. They should have made this. Why did it take almost 40 years for them to make a model of this character? Oh, it's just a stunner. I don't know who I like better, actually. I mean, Roy Bot's classic, but I'm happy now that I have something to go with the proto. Yeah, but I just think back to your childhood. Like, why were you the Garbage Pail Kid collector? Because not everyone in school collected them. It seemed like it was, but it really wasn't. Like, it wasn't like every kid. Come on, man. Not every kid in your class collected this shit. Really think about it. Maybe 5 kids out of your class at the most. It wasn't like the entire populace was fucking collecting this shit. It was just kind of like a select group of people, man. And that's the thing. When I was in 4th grade, I'll tell you this one more time. So, when I was in 4th grade is when I discovered Garbage Pail Kids. It was actually Tommy Gunn, the card Tommy Gunn. I think he's in here. Let's see. Yeah, so putting that story back into perspective, on December 5th, 1985, any 57? Yeah, okay. On December 5th, I think it was 5th, might be 12th, 1985 is when I discovered Garbage Pail Kids. I was at the new fucking school, right? Around a bunch of fucking strangers. New school. New teachers. But anyway, after lunch one day, I was in the courtyard and a bunch of boys, it wasn't a bunch, maybe 4 or 5. Anyway, they were gathered in the middle of the courtyard. I thought they were going to fight. Anytime I got a sense of a fight, I would always run up to it. I love a good fight, a good argument. I love drama. So I ran up there, and there was a bigger kid, a 5th grader. To me, you look like a fucking adult. I mean, this kid, I'm pretty sure he had a mustache. He was standing there, and he had a stack of cards. He had a fucking stack of cards in his hand, and I couldn't quite see him. He was holding them under kind of his waist. He was like trying to hide them, almost like he was holding drugs, like dealing drugs to someone. The kids in front of him were in my grade. They were 4th graders. But even though they were in my grade and some were even in my class, I didn't know their names. I was new to the school. And I had trouble making friends at school. I had trouble talking, and I would be removed from class to go into special education classes and shit like this. But what I saw in that moment was an opportunity. First of all, I can fucking totally relate to all these characters in some fashion. Here you look at Harry Carey and Harry Gary. Here's a guy who's, beating up my mom. This could represent the cop. This could represent all the toys I loved growing up. I mean, I loved Godzilla as a child, actually. I can relate to everything, right here. I'm sure you can too, but in that moment, I saw an even bigger opportunity, and that was to be able to buy something that someone else wanted. It became a ticket to meeting friends, and I just really wanted to have something that other people wanted. So I don't know why that is, but I always love having something rare that other people really craved. And so that might go back to my childhood somewhere too, but I just love that. And I just wanted to be that older kid. I wanted to be like 5th grade boy. I just wanted to be the gangster, man. I wanted to also be Tommy Gunn. I just wanted to fucking have some power, man, over my situation. I think that's every kid's dream, especially boys. We just want to have something that's our own. And we just want what we want, man. We just want it. We want it all, man. We want to have friends. We want to be respected. We want people to understand us. And I think through Garbage Pail Kids, especially in the very beginning, it was my ticket to having a friend group. Because if I didn't have the Garbage Pail Kids, I don't think I would have had many friends at that new school in 4th grade at all. In 5th grade, it would just carried over year after year. But yeah, man, that's pretty much my young childhood. That's kind of how it went. So guys, hope you enjoyed that. I kind of want to stop, man. And I did not go over all this. And I have no plans to, actually. Yeah, I was just thinking last night, like I was writing some shit down. I was like, man, I was like starting to feel some sort of way. I mean, I was like, there's no way. And I'm not even sure it's all pertinent to the topic. I just felt like if I'm getting out of the hobby, I needed to kind of figure out how it started. And I remember when I was collecting Garbage Pail Kids as a child, it was very important to me then. And I was dealing Garbage Pail cards then. I was hoarding these fucking cards then. I've had a whole life of hoarding toys, and I've had a whole life of just sneaking candy in my room, and just I would sneak up to the gas station in Atlanta. There was a 7-Eleven up by my house, and I would just take any fucking scrap of money, and I would buy just like penny pieces of bubble gum. You know, candy was cheap as fuck back in the 80s. Like, I would just buy bagfuls of this shit, and no one would know. I'd sneak them to my bedroom. And, like, my bedroom was my own little world. Much like it is now, but this isn't really my bedroom. This is a guest room, but I keep a lot of my shit in here. But, in many ways, I'm just still just... I don't know. If I'm honest, man, I don't think I developed that much since like 1st grade. I kind of felt like when I was in that fucking apartment with that stepdad guy, I won't even say his fucking name. I just felt like it just kind of started, I don't know, man. Started something that I haven't quite gotten over. But I'm going to fucking try to get over it. Because I'm getting pretty old here, man. So I'll end it with this. So one of the biggest parts of my life is actually art, though. So when you look at my stuff, there's a lot of color, right? There's just a ton of color. And if you were to see the candy collection, it would appear that I'm collecting things just for the color. I've always been very attracted to just color. That's kind of like my thing. And just the whole thing with art has always been an issue with me. So I'll just tell you this. So when I was in college, I had a very important choice to make. And looking back on it, it was the most important decision of my life. In fact, had I picked the other way, I wouldn't be sitting right here now. Okay, the decision was, this might not sound related. It's very related. So the decision was, I came up to the semester where I'd taken like 2 years of college. It was time for me to decide. I had to commit to a major. I had no more playroom. It was time. Had I wasted another semester, I don't know. Like, that's just a lot of money. So I had to decide, am I going to continue with visual art, or am I going to go into art education? At the time, I had just gotten married. And you know, everyone tells you do not get married when you're in college. You need to wait. Even if you're engaged, just wait until you graduate. Because what's the fear there? It can affect your dreams. It can also affect the stress of the marriage and a lot of things. So obviously I went with art education. That was not the dream. In fact, that wasn't my dad's dream. That was no one's dream. Where that decision came from is, I didn't tell you about everything, so I don't have time, but on my mom's side of the family, there's a lot of teachers. We have preachers. We have politicians. And so most of the men in my family on that side are public speakers in some fashion. My grandfather was a senator for Georgia, and my grandmother was a teacher. All my aunts are teachers. My sister she did nursing education, stuff like that. So there was a lot of pressure put on me to make a decision towards education. And in the end, it just kind of felt like I kind of settled and I kind of gave in. So I went the education route. I think a lot of our work choices is contributing to how we collect Garbage Pail Kids. One thing, it's the money we make in our jobs and the free time that certain jobs allow. So I want you to also reflect on your career choice, which is often decided in your childhood or somewhat inspired by your childhood as well. Just today, I want us to reflect on how did our decisions and things that happened to us in the past, let's just say that, how did it affect your collection, the way you could collect, and just why you even like Garbage Pail Kids. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. I'm about out of voice here, so I need to go regroup. Yeah, there's a lot, man. I know some of you guys had amazing childhoods, and some of you had just fucking trauma, untold trauma, compared to my little issues about being electrocuted and, autism issues and all this shit is nothing compared to what you went through. And just God bless you all. And we're all on, a different path and, different journey, as they say. And so it is what it is. But I think it's important when you get to the point that we're at as collectors, and considering how much money we're dumping into this hobby, to where you're going to be alone. Listen, you're going to be alone with all this fucking shit. There's not going to be anybody around. You think this community is going to last forever? You think there's always going to be a Facebook Garbage Pail Kid community? Are you serious? There's no fucking way that in 5 years this fucking hobby is going to be here. No way. No way, man. No way. Which means you're going to be at your house, probably with around $50,000 worth of collectibles, and there's no one to show them to. And you're going to be left with all this shit. For me, it's more like $500,000. And yeah, man, anybody that's going through the quitting process, anyone that's considering exit paths and end games, bro, you're going to think back to where did this go wrong, man? And so that's where I'm at. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one. I don't know when it'll be, though. I'm probably going to take a day off. Russ Van, out.